Hello, Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Welcome to the Spicy Brain Podcast,
Podcast.
where we are navigating neurodiversity with curiosity, joy, and
Radical acceptance. High kick. Oh, somebody on YouTube was like wrote high kick, like made a little they like the high kick too.
oh, what?
Yeah,
I
I just saw
love
that the other day.
it. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, I've been having so many great conversations. So we want to welcome everyone who's new. We are so happy you're joining us today. If you're returning, we love you and you know who you are because
Mhm.
we actually talk to you people and we think you're amazing.
Yeah.
And we are so excited to be here today because we are sort of going through our current book, which again is all about Your Brain is Not Broken by,
Tamara Rosier, PhD.
yes, you say that so lovely. I love it
Thank
every
you.
time. And one of the things that she talks a lot about in this book, and you kind of slowly get to it, is how okay you are.
Mhm.
Like you're okay. Nothing's really wrong with you ultimately, other than everyone told you there was something maybe wrong with you, especially if you were dealing with ADHD. Um, Today, though, we're kind of the end of this chapter, and the chapter's been quite heavy
Mhm.
and a lot going on in it. And it's been talking about all about these malicious motivations, ways to get yourself to do a task, right? And we've
Mm.
gone through all these different ones like avoidance, anxiety, procrastination, anger. And today she kind of hits in on shame and self loathing, which
Mm.
just even saying those words sort of is hard
Yeah, it's
to me.
heavy.
Yeah. So while this will be heavy, can we also just agree we'll laugh when possible?
Yes. I'll do my
Okay, because
best.
yeah, I mean, so tell us about all your shame.
Let me tell you. Mm.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is this idea of healthy shame versus unhealthy shame and
Mm.
how people use it for motivation. Do you think there's such a thing as healthy shame?
I mean, I go back and forth. Like, I know that some people say, that some shame is good because then it makes you, I don't know. I don't know what they say, but they
Well,
do have a thing
he
they
says that
say.
it's like you feel bad for hurting somebody. Like,
Yeah.
healthy shame
Okay.
is that you feel okay, and it signals that you need to get back towards your value system.
Mm. Yeah, and like I think that's where it's funny. I didn't even think about that. That was the example. The example I was thinking of. Like, sometimes it's healthy shame because you just know that you're fitting in with society. So I think that
Mhm.
that's, like, the scary part is, like, when people hear these catchphrases, don't always mm, they don't always know what they're talking about. So, you know, it's like a
Like
great
us?
buzzword. Yeah,
Like
like
like, we
us.
don't know what we're talking about, so don't listen to us. But we're talking about what we don't know or what we might wanna know more about, so we're discussing, I guess. We're
Yeah,
not
no,
saying we know anything, we're not, like, psychologists, we're always, like, kinda curious about these things.
yeah, and I just think it's when people it's sort of like, when as actors, people say like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm doing the method acting," and they maybe went through one class for, like, 6 months, and then they think that they're a method actor, and it's like, no, it's actually, like, a 6 or 7-year-long journey.
Mm.
So, I think there's, like, a great buzzword for, like, healthy shame versus not healthy shame, because I think people can look at that word and say, "Oh, yeah, I know what healthy shame is. Healthy shame is, just like when it helps you to stay part of society," and, like, I think that's the toxic shame that, like,
Mhm.
somehow you make sure that you're clothed so that you're not shameful about your body or whatever it is, and it's like, well, that's not really what she's talking about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so let me just say what she said and then we can talk about it more. So she says healthy shame, and I think she was kind of going off of Brene Brown, which I know a lot of people have like her a lot. And that it's healthy shame if you're like maybe you've hurt somebody and the feeling is giving you a signal that you need to move back towards baseline or back towards your value system. You've gotten off the road a little bit. But that unhealthy shame is situations that you're allowing yourself to be defined by
Mm,
that you have no control over. So, like, you're being defined by a weakness or something you have no control over. And that you're defining yourself in this way, and so since you have no control over your ADHD, for example, but you're defining yourself by that weakness or something, that might be unhealthy shame. Maybe I'm
Mm,
stating it in a flawed way, but Brene Brown says shame is an intensely painful feeling or believing that we are flawed and therefore currently unlovable.
mm. That's right, because like, shame and guilt, those were, like, the 2 that go kinda hand in hand, and shame is, like, when you think about it yourself, and then
Mhm.
guilt is when someone else puts shame on top of you.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, I think, like, I don't know, like, healthy shame, I think, yeah, that it is important to have moments where you're remembering, "Okay, I don't like the way that I'm treating somebody."
Mhm.
But I think when it goes into that category of who I am is not okay, I should be shameful of what I just did. Like, when I was at the the
Okay, so you were in this auditorium. You had you were there supporting,
mhm,
right? Supporting a friend of ours and their kid, right? And we were really like there to support. And I think what was maybe like middle school or
like
something,
middle
right?
school, yeah.
And it was like their first big, production, right?
Mhm.
And it was supposed to be sort of melodrama or something. And they said though, right, that there should be audience participation.
Yeah, the director said like, "Hey, we
Yeah.
love it when people, they participate." And so I was like, "Okay."
But
And I
didn't say like
specific
what participation would meant. Like they just said participate.
Yeah. And I specifically checked in with our friend, and I specifically asked, like, our like, the kiddo, like, "Hey, is this okay? And, like, do you want me to participate?" And they were like, "Yeah, totally.
We love it, that's great.
Yeah, we love it when you do that." So I was like, "I'm all gung ho, like, let's do this." Like, I'm gonna because the more you like, it feels like I know what it feels like to be on stage
Yeah,
and then have the audience participate with you. Like, that's
feels really
the
good.
greatest feeling. Yeah.
Okay, so then is it the kid that we were supporting was the bad guy?
No, it was the friend.
Oh.
The kid was great. The kid
Oh.
was just like, had no issue whatsoever, but it was the friend who was just
Oh,
like,
okay, so let me debrief this. So
"Okay.
you have a voice that travels,
Yeah, that's
true?
true." Yeah.
Right, and you practiced for, like, 3 years in grad school to make it travel more. Okay, so so we're sitting in, I think, like, the back row, right, of
Yeah.
this big auditorium. We were not close at all, and the good person comes on and we're like, "Yay," but, whatever, and then the villain comes on and you just start booing them, like, "Boo, boo," like, really loud,
Yeah.
right? Really loud, but no one else in the audience does it, so it's like that one thing when, like, you stand up for a standing ovation, if you were the only one standing up, right, it was kinda like that.
Yeah.
If,
And the
like,
thing
look
is, like,
around and you're looking around and you're like, "Oh, I'm the only one standing up." So,
but it
you're
doesn't
booing.
bother me, but that's the thing is,
No.
like, I go to the theater all the time. I go to, like, the movies all the time,
Yeah.
and I might be the only person laughing at certain parts, and, like, I've in the beginning, when I did that, I would feel very self-conscious and, like, worried about it, but then over time, I'm
Yeah.
just like, "I don't care what other people think because, like,
Yes.
I'm enjoying it, and I'm having
Yes.
a good time."
Okay, this happened to me with my boss at Bridesmaids. We went to go see Bridesmaids together, and she'll, like, invite me to go to certain movies because she knows that, like, I've got an okay sense of humor and whatnot, and so I was laughing so hard that she still brings this up regularly that I embarrassed her.
Well, you know what?
I know, but
Sorry.
it's so funny, right? Like, I am the same way, like, I laugh really, really hard now, and I don't care, but other people care. So you boo,
Yeah.
and our friend was, like, mortified.
Mortified.
Like, kind of in a way that was
Un I like, uncharacter
unexpected
yeah, unexpected.
unexpected. So what happened with that? Because I feel like you had some residual feelings from all of that.
Well, yeah, because I can still remember it, and it was, like, over a year and a half ago. I mean,
Yeah.
I just the fact that I did all the things I was supposed to do, I that everyone tells me I'm supposed to do, and as an ADHD person, I'm like, "Okay, well, I checked in with the person who was performing, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I listened to the instructions, and I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, but yet even doing what I was supposed to be doing, I was supposed to know that because no one else was laughing or booing or what cheering, that, like, somehow I was taking the person who was the villain and making it the absolute worst thing possible for them. If, like, my laughter or my boo was a dagger, it would have stabbed him multiple times. Like, that's the shame that I was given.
That somebody told you.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's like they're when they were talking about unhealthy shame, it's like being defined by a weakness or something you have no control over. So you have, like,
Yeah.
no control over the fact that this kid feels bad about this, and
No, I don't even know if the kid felt bad. That's the thing. It's
you
like
were
I
just
have no
told they
control.
were.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have no control over the audience. Right?
Right.
I have no control. I mean, like, I really don't have a ton of control over the fact that, like, I'm gonna laugh. Like, right, granted, I could, like, try
Mhm.
to laugh softer, but, like, I don't have control over, like, when I find something funny. And so
Mhm.
I sometimes find things funny that are, like, probably people would think are inappropriately funny, and not in, like, the inappropriate in the rated R kinda way, but just, like,
Yeah.
I find, like, just people's quirks really hilarious, and so I want to celebrate that with these kids, and so I can't control the fact that, like, the people in the audience felt whatever however they felt, and, like, I think there were, like, some older, kids who were in the audience who were, like, watching me and, like, making fun of the villain because I was booing them or whatever it was, and so then that was brought to my attention that I should have known that was
Mhm.
happening. I should have been aware of the surroundings and been reading the audience and reading the room on top of everything else, so that I should have tempered what I did, and I'm just like, that just seems like so much work. And
And just almost impossible for you.
right, because, like,
Yeah.
I could read the room, but if I read it wrong, then I'm still wrong. Like, and the thing is
Right.
that's how I lived. I lived my life for decades trying to
Mhm.
read the room to the point where, like, I would try to read somebody and try to figure out, okay, how do I need to act in order to not upset them or to, like, toe the line or to be quote unquote "normal," and it got me in a lot of trouble because half the I mean, not only did I half the time not read it properly or I might have read it exactly the way they wanted to, and they're like, "I don't wanna go there,"
Mhm.
But also it just, like, it messed me up internally because, like, I was just shameful about everything. It was like a
Yeah.
state of being, like, every single day of my
Mm.
life, I was shamed about something, and so it
Mhm.
got to the point, like, where it was like it got to the point, Michelle, that, like, I had so much shame about myself that I did not even love myself. Like, during PHP, which is my partially hospitalized program, I literally could not say, "I love me."
Mm.
I couldn't tell you like, I couldn't say it genuinely to myself. And I
Mm.
couldn't say, like, "Good job" on something. I couldn't say, like, "You're awesome." I couldn't say any of those things because all I had in my head was this tape of people telling me that who I was not okay, that my brain was broken, that I was a total and complete fuck up in life and in general. Like, I've just heard the nastiest shit that comes out of people's mouths, and I know they're not trying to be nasty, but, like, I internalized it, and then it became me being that awful human being.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to that principal who said, like,
You're
don't
never gonna amount to anything, so why bother trying?
right.
It is seared in my brain.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I can remember the sentiment, but I don't remember the words, and you remember the words so
Yeah.
clearly, like, if I ever ask you to say it. And I don't ask you to say it often because who wants to go back to that? But I think on some level, it's super important because I think then shame becomes a way of life,
Mhm.
and you had to work so hard and continue to have to work hard. And I think also thinking about who are the people we're surrounding ourselves with,
Mhm.
because if they're gonna invite that back in, then that's just a hell no,
Yeah.
right? At this point. That's how I feel about it. And I was reading through this chapter really going, "Oh, like, I identify with quite a lot of these things in terms of little things like that I would do, and she talks about it in terms of, like, motivating yourself, like, you use shame to motivate ourselves, which I'm kinda interested in that perspective from you as well, but for me, I was realizing, like, there was so many things that I think it's almost, like, cultural in some sense, being brought up Catholic, shame is like a cultural state of being
Mhm.
anyway, right? You're always, sorry for everything you've ever done. I mean, the number of times the word sorry is used in our house or, I use it. It's probably similar to the word like or something, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I don't know. I was thinking when you were talking about that, how quickly, no matter how hard you work, right? No matter how much mental work you do, when you're around people who are going to should you
Yeah, they're
should be
gonna
like this,
should all over you.
should all over you, that you really just can't kinda keep them close
Yeah.
because that's gonna really affect your own healing, I would think.
Oh, 100%. 'Cause, people will say, like, when someone messes up, it's like people will say, like, "I beat myself up way harder than anyone could beat me up."
Mhm.
And so when it comes to shame, like, I already have shame in spades. I'm
Mhm.
already, using because you're right, like, I have to use shame sometimes in order to get myself motivated. And so if that's what I'm already doing 70% of the time, then if I have the 30% of the time from other people on top of that, then 100% of my life is just living in shame. It's like I don't need other people telling me how awful I am and how if I could just figure this stuff out, if I could just not be so weird. Like, it's like that girl in my fresh or sophomore year who was like, all the things that, like, made you so weird, I was like, what makes you cool now?"
And you're like, "Thanks?" Like, which what? Oh,
Yeah.
what a
Like,
backhanded
and
compliment.
oh, yeah, and I'm supposed like, again, one of those I remember, like, and I'm supposed to, like, be grateful for that?
Yeah,
Like, "Oh, so you're" like, and this girl tormented me in middle school in grade school, like, so you
yeah,
tormented me because of being weird, and now that's what makes me cool?"
yeah.
Just a
Come
complete
on.
mind freak, like, just a complete
Just
mind freak.
Yeah, and I think, what's interesting is, like, when we think about the people who are ADHD, it's all these creatives and these geniuses, and everyone, reveres them later.
Yeah.
But during the time when you're supposed to become whatever that is, acceptable, right? And so then there's a lot of people who they became acceptable and maybe they weren't undeniably ADHD, but they
Mhm.
had ADHD or some components of it, and now they're in hiding,
Yeah.
right? And so they're hiding who they truly are, and that's another
And
form
they
of
maybe
shame,
they that's
right?
the thing
Because
is
you're like, I believe I am flawed and I am therefore unworthy of love and belonging. So I'm
and they
hiding
may
who I
not even know that they're hiding, that's the worst part,
am. Mm,
because they have been told that they are supposed to be a certain way. And so they believe that they don't realize that they are actually ADHD, and this is what we've been seeing time and time again, especially with women and people who
mhm,
are and men who are also, like, who are diagnosed later in life, is that they didn't even know that there was an issue. They just thought that it was them who was deficient, that who they are was deficient, and so, like, having to use shame makes perfect sense because, like, if you just beat yourself up enough, then you're like, "Well, I gotta do it because I don't wanna be that person." The
mhm.
idea of, like, you were saying at the beginning, the good shame, like, healthy shame is, like, when you've gone off course and maybe you've hurt somebody and you've it's affected your morals, right?
Right, your
But if
value system,
your
yeah.
value system. But if people are saying, "Well, what I value in you, Megan, is I value that you can be on time."
Mm.
Well, if you value that, then I'm screwed.
Yeah, if that matters a lot. Yes.
And it has nothing to do with my value system, right? It's other people's value system. This is
It's
why
something
I think
out of your control.
absolutely,
That's
and I think this is
that's
why,
the
like
unhealthy.
I
Yeah.
think that's why healthy shame, I don't I don't like it in general. Like, I don't like even just I never did, like, even when we were learning about it in class, like, I never liked the idea of healthy shame because, like, I think it's okay to, like, say, "You know what? I'm seeing something," and maybe you have to I'm seeing something and I don't like the way that I acted. But I think it's then it needs to not be called healthy shame, it needs to be called, like, personal shame.
Mm,
Because if I am personally taking shame on, then that's something that I am doing. Like, maybe it's healthy personal shame, but there needs to be something in there that talks about it being about me because I'm the one who has to choose. Because
mhm,
even if it makes like, what my values, right? It being on time is someone else's value set.
right.
Being able to wake up at a certain time is someone else's value set. Being able to keep your house clean is someone else's value set that is put on you. And
Mhm,
I'm getting I get really animated about this because it really pisses me off
mhm.
that, people could say like, "Well, in order to have a healthy life, you have to have your home clean. Otherwise, you're not being healthy." Like, and so it's just that term that just really irritates me.
No, I get it. I see your animation and I understand it. Like I didn't until even like I read this and I wrote it down, but I really didn't think about the difference between internal versus external. Like
Mhm.
you're saying internally I'm like cuz I think shame has that kind of like I don't know what the feeling is if we dig in a little bit for you what it feels like in your body, but do you have a sense of like what that feels like?
Yeah, it feels like prickly.
Mm.
Like, it feels like this it's like it starts kind of in the center of my chest, and then it's like it just kind of prickles out, and I it feels like it's just sort of infesting me or it's, what am I doing?
Yeah,
I'm like it's like little ants just, like, crawling
expanding.
all over
Yeah.
my body, and it's like I can't sit still, and I'm just I just I f it feels just awful.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because in her chapter, she says that if you think of it like chronic inflammation,
Mhm.
like if you have chronic shame, you've got this chronic inflammation, and it's I don't know. I'm interested in this and breaking into this a little bit more with you in terms of how that then has translated. So you've had shame put upon you or
Mhm.
things that are outside of your control, like being on time, because your brain doesn't do that part well, right? So, and you're
No.
never going to be a time, you're always going to deal with time blindness. Like that's just a thing. So
Mhm.
then now this is a value that somebody wants, or this idea that you get super engaged and super interested in a play, and maybe you're not aware of everyone else around you. Your attention isn't able to go to all those things, right? You're hyper focused on the performance. So, like, how does that translate then to this idea that, you're using shame in a regular way to kind of get yourself going? Is it to meet those external expectations? Is that when the shame comes in?
Yeah, like, if I have to like, if you're back in the day when, like, you'd come over to my house, right?
Right.
If you were staying over, like, we were just talking last week, I think, about how you were shocked because like, my house was really nice and, like, there
Oh,
was a
yeah.
towel,
Yeah, it
waiting
was
for you
so
on the bed.
cute. It was so good. Yeah, it's probably because I
And
shamed you about a towel before.
no. No, no,
No.
no. Please let me finish, Michelle.
Yes.
Mm. What I was gonna say is that, in the past, I you see on TV and in magazines and, like, all this stuff about, like, how to be a good host. I mean, like, Martha Stewart made her entire career on how to host, and, like,
Yes.
Martha Stewart is an ADHD nightmare because there are so many
Yeah,
rules and expectations, and, like, I love how creative she is, but then I'm also like, I don't have the energy
right.
to do all of that. So, like, there's this so I don't know, she's created this, like, environment of the Pinterest, right? Like, if
Yeah.
Pinterest was around, Martha Stewart would have, like, ruled it. She probably still
Yes.
does in some way. But, like, this thing about these expectations, and so with these expectations, if you were ever coming over to my house, like, I had that expectation in me, and I remember as a kid, like, we'd always try to clean up before somebody came over. It's like we
Oh
had
my
to clean
god,
up.
it was like 4-day thing.
Yeah, and so we were cleaning up, trying to, like, get ready for it,
Yeah.
and so I that's what I would do, and I would be shamed because 'cause I'm like, "I can't have someone come into my house." Like,
Mm.
even now, like, I've we've kind of gotten my home a little bit more clean, but I still have that, like, twinge of, our neighbor walks in to pick up the dogs, and I'm like, "Oh, the dining room is all messy," and then I'm like, "That's
Mm.
fine, she's not gonna care."
Yeah.
But then I still but, like, that's the first thought that's in my head is like, "Ugh, someone's walking in and it's all nasty," and it's not I mean, it's comparatively to where
Well,
I've
first of all,
been.
you can walk in.
This is true.
The door opens
The
and you
door
can like, you're
opens.
not gonna fall over anything, like, there's
Right.
space. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's just, like, those things, like, where, like, oh, it's been great having a lady come in and help clean my house since I have the money to do that now. But, there's for sure some shame of, like, I better pick up so, like, when she comes over, it's not quite so
I
crazy.
know so many people who they're like, "I will never get a housekeeper." Why? Like, because then they'll see my house, and I'm like, "But the point is for them to." I mean, you think you're the only one? Oh my god, that's why
Oh,
they get. But
do you know what
also
I
you're
did?
helping your community people, by the way. You're
It's
helping the
true.
local community and economy when you hire somebody if you have the money to do that. So just
Right. And
if
that's
you
the thing is,
don't,
like,
then understandable, and that's cool too, but yeah.
yeah, but, like, if you have the money, like, it's such a great gift that you can give another human to be able to give like, it's their job, and
Yeah.
also
Livelihood.
you can tip them to say thank you.
Yeah.
So, like
Thanks, sorry, and no sorry.
well
You don't have to say sorry. You can
well,
just
I when this lady first came, I did say to her, I'm like, "I just need to let you know that I'm super embarrassed that you're coming over
mm,
because my house has been like, I have not been able to clean it, and it's really bad right now, and I'm just giving you a heads up, and this is really embarrassing for me," and I just called it out because normally I wouldn't do it. So this time around, my strategy was just name the frame. That's a linguistics term. You name the
yeah.
frame of what you're doing, and then go from there. And so, like, I did, and I said, "Okay, here's the situation." And so she came over, and it was really messy when she came over. I
Mm.
had had every intention to pick up, and then I was like, "Nope, she needs to see it." And I think she walked in and was, like, a little terrified, which is fine. And I said, "How long do you need to do it, and how much is it gonna cost me?" And then I gave her, like, a $40 tip for the first time around because I was like, "I am
I
like,
know.
whatever I'm
I
paying you is not
know.
enough." And so we just went with it, and, like and then but remember, Michelle, like, you had to, like, sit with me and help me write down, like, every little thing that we wanted to have done.
Right, because she says, "What do you want done?" And you're like, "I have no idea." I'm like, "Oh, no, you do, because you complained about the last lady. Like, you tried somebody and she was no good." And I was like, "No, you care deeply." Like, let me let me just remind you of what.
But I didn't think I could ask for that
Right. Right.
because, again, that is my shameful ADHD brain who picks up on everything but picks up on nothing, right?
It's so true. It's
I
so
pick up on
true.
everything in my home, but God
Yeah.
forbid I pick up on the fact that, like, someone next to me is, making fun of whatever it is I'm doing. I'm just like, "Whatever, they can make fun of me." But, like, "Oh,
Well.
no, there's ants in my kitchen." Like, it's just
Okay, so, in her just so you know, like, in this chapter, she does talk about sort of the consequences, though,
Mhm.
of using things like shame as these malicious motivations, that they're really costly on us,
Yeah.
and so, she described it as, like, and you said this too, actually, which I thought was, like, it's amazing to me when I talk with people who have ADHD, how similarly you all talk about certain parts of this, right? That like,
Mm.
that I there are pieces I just don't relate to in my personalness, but, like, I'm hearing it from so many of the people I interact with now, which is amazing. And there's pieces of it I do. Like shame, obviously, like, I do understand that. I just don't use it as a motivational technique, or it's not like a constant
Mhm.
um, in my life, but it's, like, definitely something, I'm very, very aware of growing up Catholic. But she said, imagine life like like, life's battery fully charged, right? So
Mhm.
life's battery's fully charged. You're hopeful, you're ready to take on the day. That every time you use one of these techniques, and I'm not saying you use them consciously, but it is used to help you get something done, that it drains your battery, like, as the
Mhm.
day goes by and it leaves you exhausted. You talk about energy a lot, how
Mm.
much energy you have or don't have. And I was wondering if we could dig in a little bit about, like, what it feels like when you're in one of these, like, shame. I don't know, would you call it a spiral or shame? I don't know, you described it as something that, like, overtakes your body slowly or something. Is that
Yeah, it's like a shame. I don't know why the first thing that popped into my head was, like, it's like all these ants just, like, coming out of my chest
mm,
and just, like, overtaking me. It's like a shame suit
a
of
shame
ants.
suit?
A
Oh,
shame a shame suit of because it's, like, constantly crawling all over you, and it just makes you feel so uncomfortable
uncomfortable.
and,
Yes.
like, just I don't know, you just can't sit still, and it's like, you
Mhm,
want it off of you as soon as possible, like, you'll do anything to get the shame off of you. It's funny, I still do use shame now that we're talking about it with the energy wise, because today as you know, I called you last night or I texted you last night and said, "Hey, I'm going to bed early because I was exhausted. I've been
mhm.
sick, not been able to sleep very well, and I slept for 12 hours today." And I woke up feeling re-energized and like, "Whoa, like, I slept." Like, I felt good when I woke up. So then Brian and I had breakfast, and then we watched a show, and then I realized I had this email we get Stitch Fix. I just got Brian doing it too now so that he can get a few clothes for when, uh, he wants to, retire and all that. So, I've been kinda trying to help him grow his style. So you have to return the bags,
Mm.
and Stitch Fix sent me a message yesterday saying, "This is your last chance to send it back, Megan." And I had every intention to do it yesterday, and then, like, I kid you not, I had 4 kids come in, totally different issues with students. One's dad passed away,
Mm,
another one was assaulted.
mm.
Another one I had to do a coaching for, and it was like a big thing. I got my coaching certificate and I passed and all that. So there was that whole thing. And then there was one other one who came. Like there was and then another one whose wife is 36 weeks pregnant. They just moved here and she doesn't have an OBGYN. So
Mm.
it was a day. And I had to get my hair done. So it was a
Oh,
day.
it was a day.
I forgot. And so then this morning, as I'm, like, super relaxed and happy, and I'm like, "Ah, this just does" it's like there's something internally in me that says, like, "This is not okay. Like, you being this happy is not okay. And you being this content, like, what are you
Oh.
missing, Megan?" And
Yeah.
then I instantly remembered the Stitch Fix bags in my back of the car.
Ah,
And I instantly was, like, shamed into, like, "You gotta go right now and take the" I was gonna ask Brian to do it, and then I love Brian, but sometimes he doesn't always know, like, where to go, and so, like, I didn't wanna upset him, so I'm like, "Okay," but I was like, like, in my head, I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna ask him to go with me, that way he'll know where it is and how to do it, so then if I need to ask him down in the future, he can go and do it and no big deal." So, I'm like, "We're gonna go." So we go, and the only reason I went, because I was like, "Well, the post office is gonna close early because it's a Saturday,"
right.
and I am like, I gotta use this shame right now because I do not wanna pay for this." And I'm like, I feel like I already missed it last week like, yesterday, and so I am,
Uh-huh.
like, shamed into, like, I need to do something different with my life and not forget this, but I did. So we went, and that's when I was like, "Hey, I need 30 minutes to go take my Stitch Fix
Is that what
to
it
the"
was?
that was what it was. I was like,
That's
"Okay,
okay,
I
I
figure."
needed a nap. I was like, "I'm tired." Well, it was funny because that totally makes sense though, that, like, shame is what got you going. But will
Oh,
that impact your energy?
yes, sorry, so there was a reason for all this. Okay, I remember now. So, I remember, like, so when we were driving back, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I am so exhausted."
You had slept for 12 hours.
felt fantastic. I had great breakfast that I didn't have to cook, like, what a great
Oh,
dude. We watched season 3 intro of Abbott Elementary, like, we just had a great morning, and that damn Stitch Fix
mm,
bag, like, shamed me into going 'cause I mean, if I hadn't really like, I wouldn't have. I had no intention of going to the post office, but I
mhm.
totally shamed myself into going to the post office. Which I needed to do, but in order to do it, I did it as a shameful thing because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, and then, I'm gonna miss with Michelle," and oh my and so I'm, like, kicking myself because 'cause I'm like, "I should have called Michelle earlier, and I didn't do" so I just was, like, telling myself all these things, and then it came down to I was exhausted driving back, and I was like, "Man, I might need to take a nap."
Wow.
And I feel it, like, it's weird, like, it's, like, in my head because I had a headache, and it's sort of like just this line, this water line that just sort of goes "meow" down my
Down,
face. What am I doing,
down.
Michelle? Like
It's, like, pushing down on you, or it's
like,
filling up, or it's
it's no, it's like getting out of me. It's like if my whole body is
Oh,
the glass
is
of
the
water,
energy is the
it's like
energy? Yeah, it's just slowly
mm.
depleting. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
Yeah. Just that one task.
That one task. Now imagine your whole day full of
Those one tasks.
oh my gosh. So, okay, so she has a whole set of strategies for this. So we finally come to the part of the chapter where she, like, has strategies. But one of the strategies, and I think we can probably go into more of these, the next time, but I think the first one is assessing your current usage of
Mm.
these malicious motivators. Like, and I think when she says your usage, it's like I still feel like that seems like that's something completely conscious. I don't think that's it. I think it's like these unconscious things, but it's like trying to become conscious of the unconscious, right? Like try to kind of note in some way, like, when are you using it? How are you using it? And what, like, in what ways might you be using avoidance or anxiety, or might, that unconsciously being using it? Procrastination, shame, anger, and just kind of noting it. So I think that's really interesting today. You noted like an actual example from today, small.
But I wouldn't have recognized it had you and I not talked. Because remember, like, we do, like,
Yeah.
a little pregame,
You didn't think of it.
pre-show. No, I didn't think about it,
Good.
like, I had to something had to trigger me into remembering it, and it was when you talked about the energy depletion, I was like, "Oh, I was super tired coming back," and I'm like, "I bet that's what it was. Oh, yeah, like, so it starts making I start making, like, all these, like, little
Connection.
firings and connections, and so, like, I think that's why, like, I always say to people, like, I've been saying on this, like, therapy is great, or if you will go get a coach, like, somebody who can talk to you that is not necessarily, you know I don't think it's fair to ask a loved one
Yeah.
to
To
be
do it
that
all the time.
person, because
Right.
yeah, I mean, they've got their own stuff and, like, it's not their job. So I think it's like having a
Especially
coach.
somebody who lives with you.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a lot easier since we've been in different states because we do this, like this kind of intense thing, like, once a week.
Yeah,
It's not
and
like
if
a
you notice, like,
daily thing.
we can't do more than one of these right now a
Mm-mm.
week.
Not with what
So
we're talking about, no.
it's like, I think having either a coach or a therapist or,
Mhm.
a chaplain or I mean, who whatever it is for you, like, where you can go and talk to somebody
Support group or something. Yeah.
whose job it is, like, it's designed for you to be able to talk about it. I think that's the way that, at least for me, that I've been able to recognize this stuff, because even if you're somebody who can think in their heads, which is wild to me that people can actually, like, have a thought that stays in their minds. Even if you're that person, like, you still aren't gonna see things necessarily, you're not gonna make those connections about yourself.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
hard to, because like, especially if it's unconscious, so, like, this idea
Right.
of uncovering it, well, like, you've gotta figure out for yourself, what is the way that you can uncover these things? Maybe you can do it all on your own, and if you can, please tell me what you did, and
Yeah.
I wanna know, because like, that's amazing.
Right.
But for me, like, I have to talk it out, like, I have always said, I'm a verbal thinker.
Mhm.
I'm somebody who, if I'm not like, I figure out what I feel once I say it out loud.
Well, I like the idea too, though, of you saying like, "Oh, I got my energy depleted. I feel that like going down." And even if you were noting that, like being conscious to note that for a day or two to
Mhm.
try to figure out what that is connected to, right?
Mhm.
Because like you just said, it was a shame thing that got you going, but it cost you something. It cost you energy.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that for me is that I when I was driving home, I thought to myself, "Ugh, I've lost my energy for the day. This
Mm,
sucks,
mhm,
and I'm gonna have to, like, push through all this stuff." And it was interesting because in the past, that has been how it is, and so when I came back, I didn't do what I would normally do when I am feeling depleted. If I'm feeling depleted, like, I'll try to go lay down or I'll, like, not I don't know, I'll just, like, go internally, but then I messaged you and you're like, "Hey, I need, half an hour more." Cool. So then I went and helped Brian set up he's becoming a streamer, Michelle. He's becoming a
mm,
Twitch streamer. Oh
Twitch
my
streamer.
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That sounds
He's
super
already
Gen
he's
Z or
fancy. Oh, yeah. It's hilarious. He's a total unk, is what the kids call him.
Oh, Unk. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
like, "Okay." I don't even
Mhm.
understand it. But I went and
Doesn't that
helped
mean that
him.
you're kinda cute, but you're older?
I think it means that, like, you're older than 18. You're like an uncle.
You're
It's
just
just
old.
you're
You're
just
just
old.
old.
Well
Okay. Yeah, I
well,
noticed.
I there's somebody I know who I love that who just turned 18, and he's
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh my god, I'm an unk now."
Oh, so
Like,
it's just old. Okay.
"What are you talking
There
about?"
was
Like,
some
"Oh."
term that was like, "You're cute and you're older," and I can't remember what
"Oh,
that
you're
word
a
was.
zaddy."
Oh, a
A
zaddy. That's
zaddy,
what
which
it was.
actually, like, his whole thing, like, his name
That's
is
funny.
Zenith online, and he has
Oh.
we made him a space called the Zenporium.
Oh
And
my
I was like, "That's so
god.
funny. If you're a little daddy, you really are a zaddy because you got all those Z's. You're
Zen.
Zenith the zaddy."
So you
But
helped him though, and did that bring your energy back?
it did because I ended up having to, like I was taking apart his computer and trying to fix some things, and so, like, I had to, like, problem solve, and I had to, physically do something, and then by like, now, like, we're talking, and I'm totally, like, much more energetic than I was.
That's amazing
I
though to
don't
think too, like, I don't know, I mean, that maybe the energy depletion doesn't mean it can't come back up.
Yes, because like,
That's
that's
kinda
been the
nice to know
thing.
because 'cause you've always thought, like, once it's gone, it's gone,
Yeah.
and now maybe
And
that's not totally always true.
part of it, yeah, because I was, like, thinking to myself as we were driving in, I'm like, "Oh gosh, I gotta get the new hormone patch, and I gotta, like, I have to go up one I have to go up the percentage, and I hadn't put it on yet." I'm like, "Well, it must be because of that." I was thinking all sorts of things, and it's like, "Wait, but I actually feel a little bit more energized because you and I are talking also." I think that's the other thing is, like, we're talking. And
Mm,
when we first started, we had we're talking about something else, and we decided to stop on that. And it was interesting because, like, yeah, my energy level was, like, way down low, and so maybe it
mhm,
actually wasn't helping Brian. Maybe it was just, like, us acknowledging the weirdness that we were talking about and then moving forward
hmm,
from it.
yeah. It's interesting, there's times when we're doing this where there's not many times
Yeah,
that I've kind of stopped us, because maybe we're going someplace that, like, while completely valid, isn't something, or there's names associated or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, we're just not in our kind of professional mindset with it to some degree.
yeah.
Like, "Oh, right, this is gonna be aired and other people are gonna hear it," and we definitely are conscious of that because we know we can say things and do things that, but whatever. So
Yeah, there's a
we
reason, like, we
try.
don't talk about people like, children's lives or, like, people like,
Yeah,
we're very
there's
conscious about
boundaries.
that.
There's
Yeah.
boundaries we try to have, and sometimes we're outside of the boundaries that we didn't even know we needed or had. Like, I might have a boundary that I didn't even know I had a boundary around or I need that day for whatever reason. So that was really today's was that I was we were hitting up on a boundary that I didn't feel comfortable going in this one direction, and so we, like,
Mhm.
kind of, like, readjusted. But it's interesting, like, when you say that, though, that the conversation of acknowledging that okay, I've had this episode, this thing that's happened, and maybe that just in itself is helpful.
It is because I thrive off of boundaries.
Mm,
I love it when people tell me exactly where they're at. Like, yeah, in the moment, when so, like, for instance, guys, like, we were talking and Michelle's like, "Hey, can we stop for a second and can we stop recording?" And so then you and I just had a chat and that really helped me. And like, yeah, in the moment, I didn't really know what to say and, it felt a little awkward, but it gave me a place to sort of bump up against.
mhm,
It gave me some line and actually, like, I wasn't really
mm-mm.
happy with where we were going because I was getting really, really angry and it wasn't, productive.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's, like, really helpful because like, it helped like, you having a boundary in that moment helped me to recognize what my boundary was. And that, like, yeah, I think it's important, like, I mean, if anyone listened to the beginning of this, like, I was salty and I was, not happy, but it was a productive conversation as opposed to, like, more therapeutic where I'm just, like, spewing anger, and that's not necessarily helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think and to just be fair too, like, I've had kind of a tough week, and so I think, when I don't know, sometimes you're just in the middle of something and you realize, like, can we just reset?
Mhm.
Right? Can we just have a minute to, like, just take a breath, reset, come back together, make sure our intentions are clear. We know what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go. And I mean, not that, like, we never know where we're going on these podcasts, to be honest with you, but we always just kinda go with it and do our best.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that I think this idea that it's okay to say, "I'm having a hard time with this," or it's okay to tell somebody who's got ADHD because you guys do have big, big, big emotions, like, "Hey, I'm not okay with that particular direction right now, like, I can't, that's too much for me."
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of what was happening at that moment. I don't think I would have
Well,
said that
and
till now, but I think it was like, I'm
yeah.
having big emotions internally, and usually your big emotions don't, it's fine, like, but I don't have enough room right now, and
Mhm.
I needed to, like, have us take a step back, and you were, like, super accommodating with that, which was amazing, and I think like you said maybe too, like, it felt more comfortable for you too to have a little bit of a boundary around that, but yeah, I just
Well,
interesting.
and now that we're again, this is me talking in real time because that's how I figure out what I'm feeling. I now that we're saying it out loud, I realize that it was when we were sort of pre-gaming and you were mentioning this whole shame stuff, I was, like, not interested. I
Yeah.
was, like, kinda shut down, and I was like, "Ugh, okay, we gotta talk about shame and guilt," and, like, I think my energy was low from being depleted by the shame that I had just experienced, which is really amazing. But, like,
Wow.
what's great is, like,
How
I think
meta is that? We were, like,
right?
full on getting you pre-gamed with shame and
Didn't
didn't even
even
know.
know.
Oh,
And but what is great is that I think in that process, because I think at one point I was like, "We just have to talk about it." I don't know, we just gotta get it out, like, we were talking and I was like, "I feel like we're doing the podcast right now, like, why are we talking about this? Like,
yeah,
we're just doing the pod like, just go." And
yeah.
so I think my brain wanted to go a kind of a different direction in order to keep me from really processing the fact that I had just shamed myself.
Oh,
And so you stopping us for a minute, the thing that was helpful was, like, it just kind of reset me. It did. It sort of was like, "Okay," and then you actually started it differently, like, the way that you asked me the question, I know
yeah.
it's like it was a very different approach than, like, how I think we started the podcast originally.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of what it was I realized that there was a way to take it, to talk about it sort of like bird's eye view
Mhm.
versus, like, being in it, talking
Yeah.
about it, and I feel like that particular one was such, like, a trauma, response, like,
Yeah.
it was so deep, and it hit you so hard in a real way, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having those kinds of conversations on podcasts or people describing that or whatnot, none of that. I just didn't have the capability to go there today,
Yeah.
and and it was sort of like re-traumatizing you is how I felt, like you were having to go through it again, and it was hard, I didn't have the room to kind of I
Be
don't know.
curious about it, which is why
Yeah,
'cause it's also not
yeah.
your responsibility to, like, that's the thing,
No.
that's the beauty of that boundary is that, like, it's not your job to be my therapist.
Right, and so I
And
think that's when it goes on that line over that, it's like, "Oh, that's a good thing to take back to your therapist and say, like, hey,
mhm.
this came up, and I realize I might need to, like, explore this a
Mm,
little bit more." But
clearly
yeah.
still not over it. Like, it's like, it clearly still bothers me a year and a half later, like, maybe 2 years, however long it's been, it's like
Yeah. No, I
but
mean,
also,
and
like
understandably, to some degree.
yeah, and, like, what a great thing that you could say, like, "Hey, let's just take a second. Can we just take a pause?" And it it didn't affect me, like, it didn't make me upset. It was like, "Okay, yeah, let's take a pause." Because I think sometimes, like, my brain wants to take a pause, like, I think I wanted to. When you were talking about shame and guilt originally, I was kinda like, "Oh,
Yeah,
can we
I
just not do
remember.
this?" And then we did it, and so then, like, I think you saying, "Let's take a pause," it was like, "Yeah, that's what my brain wants right now." Like, I wanna take a pause, and then we
Mhm.
kind of gently went into it, which was
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I think I just decided to, like, keep it a little lighter in terms of how I asked the question, but that's good. I didn't consciously do that, but I think that was, like, the shift in energy was, like, needed at that moment. What's
Mhm,
interesting too, I think as you're saying this, um, it's just making me think too that the therapy I did the last 2 years, I was just talking with, 2 of my coworkers about this, and I was discussing how I had, like, gone through EMDR, and a lot of people don't know what that is, and so I think I would have before maybe have had shame around that for myself, that I needed that, that somehow I wasn't strong enough to not need that help, but I did get that help, and I think I've seen in 2 instances in the last 2 weeks where that 2 years of work that I did on myself, it was very apparent to me.
mm,
And today is one of those days. Like, this is going a direction that I don't it's not that I could never go there, but I can't go there today. And
mhm,
I can say that, and I can tell you I need us to stop, and I need us to regroup, and I need us to take this a different direction, and that's okay.
yeah,
And I don't think I would have been able to verbalize that before. I think it would have gone I would have just let you keep going, it would have gone whatever. I would have been feeling uncomfortable the whole time. I would you know what I mean? I wouldn't have been able to verbalize for myself. And
yeah,
I was able to do that, 2 weeks ago, and in a way that was very, very important for me, and I feel like there's these little moments of wins for us in life, and apparently everyone gets to hear our little wins right now in real time, which is really cool. So that's my little win, and I think for you, like, do you feel like that too? Like a little win of some sort to some degree?
yeah, being able to recognize that I can feel depleted, but it may just be a temporary thing.
Mm,
Like, is it the chronic fatigue, the chronic inflammation that she talks about, um, actually resonates well with me as a metaphor because, having lived with pain my entire life, I didn't fully understand that there was, like, chronic pain and then there was everyday pain. And,
mm,
like, they talk about everyday pain, like, okay, so you're walking around and, like, your feet start to swell after a while, and so maybe your feet are in pain, but that's not chronic. That's just an
mm,
everyday pain.
mm,
And so, like, for this, it's like, okay, is this chronic fatigue or is it just an everyday fatigue? Like, or just a blip of fatigue, like, where my feet don't hurt every single day, right? But, like, if I'm walking around a ton one day, then, like, I might be more sore the next day.
mhm,
And it doesn't mean it's gonna stay that way for the rest of my life. It's just like, okay, I just have some pain for the next couple of days and then it moves on. I I've never really thought about fatigue being that way,
mm.
where or energy drain, I should say, the energy drain and depletion. It always felt like as soon as my energy would be drained, then that was it. There's no charger. There's no way. There's no plug or outlet. Like, sorry.
Sorry, you're done for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I'm very curious if other people in our community can relate to the concept of shame and energy, right? I think
Mhm.
that actually is a big piece of her next chapter is all about energy and whatnot. But, what strategies people use around shame as well, I think. Like you said, do you have some magic tricks? Please let me know because we want to know the tricks
Seriously.
around this because it's such a chronic can be such a chronic or maybe daily. Maybe sometimes it's just daily. It's a
Yeah.
daily thing that, like, goes away, though, and can go away if you
Yeah.
maybe have some strategies around it. So next time, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about strategies.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's good.
I think that's good too. Well, I love you. Thank you for going on this journey with me today.
Thanks for acknowledging and naming your boundaries. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Spicy Brain podcast brought to you by Spicy Brain Studios. We're continuing our new series focusing around the book Your Brain is Not Broken: Strategies for Navigating Your Emotions and Life with ADHD by Tamara Rosier, PhD. We hope you'd enjoyed us navigating our neurodivergent brains through curiosity, joy, and a radical acceptance. Please take a moment to share the episode with someone you think could benefit from the conversation because sharing the episode really helps us continue building these episodes and creating better content for you. Also, don't forget to follow us on whatever platform you're listening to so that you can get notified each week because next week we will dive into learning to build some new habits to help us minimize the malicious motivations inside our brains. Let's figure out how we can acknowledge what we do and be more curious because we got to get our energy back, folks. We got to start all those rainbow unicorn projects that are in our amazing brains. So tune in next week to find out how we are going to do that. But until then, here's to a great end of the week. And remember to stay curious.